Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024's default scenery is pretty good in a lot of places, especially some of the major, more well-known cities. But depending on the type of flying you do, sometimes just having an add-on that covers a general area or a larger area can really change the experience and really make it feel like you're there. OrbX sent me a copy of Cityscape Sydney to review, and even though it does have a few little glitches here and there, overall it just really has a good sense and feel of the city of Sydney. Or at least I think so, I've never been there. Let's take a look. I'm going to run through a quick startup on the CownSim Bell 206B3. I'm not going to talk about it step by step, so if you're more interested in the scenery, feel free to skip ahead to the city tour. I've been flying fully articulated and rigid rotor systems in the sim mostly lately, so my pickup got a little bit away from me, not expecting the extra delay in the teetering system in the two-bladed bell here. And all the internal views I recorded from the VR mirror, so that's the split screen showing the left eye, and then I have to crop it in video editing software. and the external views are from the replay. And the replay has come a long way in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but it's still not one of the best features of the program, and it's kind of a mainstay for Flight Sim, so hopefully they keep working to improve it. So what's really nice now is you can see the blade flex and the coning of the rotor disc when you go for pickups. That's nice, but the turbine and rotor RPM and most of the gauges don't work correctly. So anyways, not a lot taken off out of the international airport here just outside of the city, but as soon as you take off, I turn the points of interest on, which I usually don't fly with, but I just wanted to be able to find them easily, and man, there's so many, and I just find that to be great. I love having all of the spots to go explore, because I typically fly in Class G airspace, 700 feet to 1200 feet AGL. And as soon as you take off and start heading towards the points of interest, you can already see the changes that are here due to the add-on. There's a lot of extra detailed models like the stadiums and points of interest in quite a few buildings in the city proper itself. But then a lot of like the generic models for the autogen have been replaced with area specific type condo and apartment buildings, and I think that really gives life to the city. So I've never seen buildings that look quite like this, and that's why in the intro opening of the video I said that it looks like Sydney to me, because I've never been there, and flying here looks like no place I've ever flown over, either in the sim or anywhere I've flown over in real life. So that's pretty cool. It just made me feel like, man, I wonder if this is how it truly looks, because it made it really feel lived in. Some of the cliff faces on the points of interest near the water, like North Head, they're not the greatest quality textures, so I can understand that they replaced them with some satellite imagery and probably the imagery that was there before the coloring was off, but some of them are lower res than I'd like to see, but some of them look pretty good. So actually this spot right here on North Head, I didn't think looked that great in VR as I was flying over it, but then watching the replay and flying the drone camera around the helicopter after the flight was over, I'm actually pretty impressed with how it looks, and it's a pretty good improvement over the default area. But aside from the points of interest being on, like you can see these views in the replay where I turn them off, the color palette adjustments, the changes to the satellite imagery, the additional modeling and area type buildings that they put in specifically, like just flying around, it really gives you a sense of the city to me. It's really starting to get difficult to distinguish videos like this or captures like this from real video that you might have gotten from a tour flight. I mean, obviously there's certain things that give it away, but it's pretty crazy how good it's getting. And this is what I prefer in add-ons, is just something that covers an area more than just like a point-to-point airport, because I like to explore at low level, because that's what helicopters do. And I enjoy an add-on like a Cityscape here that just replaces a bunch of objects or adds things in. But I mean, you can still see like the area we just passed over, some of the photogrammetry. It's probably default photogrammetry, and you kind of do what you can with that. I've messed with it a little bit in the SDK myself, but there's some areas that they either could have flattened and remodeled or done something that are a little bit wonky. So it's like 95 to 98% like, oh my god, this looks amazing, and 2 to 5% WTF. You know, like, yeah. But some areas, you can look at the photogrammetry here and you can get the magnifying glass out and really critique it hardcore, but you can also fly over it generally at the height. I mean, I'm pretty low here too, and just enjoy how immersive it is. So, I mean, aside from the trees, one of these days we'll get the trees figured out. And this is even with the Bijan enhanced trees add-on. So I don't know how those two work, if they conflict or what, but there are a lot of trees still in the city. Like, I just came back from Chicago myself, and I was actually surprised at how much larger the trees were than I expected walking around the city. But yeah, the Microsoft Flight Simulator series since 2020 and 2024, the trees are excessive. But that's okay, I'll take it. It's better than it was. Downtown actually looks really, really good. It's pretty impressive, but there's still some areas where you can see that the photogrammetry buildings need a little touch-up or texture work. It's not flawless, but it is really good. And a lot of the unique buildings and structures in the downtown area, especially around the shoreline, you can tell that they've been touched up or remodeled, and they look really good. Now, there has been some controversy that popped up over the last few weeks about YouTubers and flight sim, and are they disclosing whether or not they're getting paid sponsorships. Now, I've never personally been paid to do any of this stuff. I do this stuff because I like it as kind of a creative outlet for me. I enjoy making videos and flying helicopters and putting it all together in flight simming. So that being said, I mean, I have gotten some free products here and there, but I've also turned down a lot of stuff. So maybe that's why a lot of YouTubers or some of the YouTubers out there, their reviews seem more positive of products. It's not because they're being paid or being coerced by the creators of the products, but maybe they're more along the lines of accepting things that are products that they probably would have liked to begin with. So I still purchase quite a bit of my add-on content, and some stuff I get for free, but I really only do flights and videos on things that I like. So, you know, I'm not taking in every product and reviewing it. So I don't know from that aspect if my reviews are fair either, because I'm only reviewing stuff that I'm more generally gonna like to begin with anyways. So take that as you will. Don't know if that helps anyone understand where I'm coming from, at least as a flight simmer, but you know, kind of one of the things to talk about in these videos, or what I'm kind of getting at with this, it's like what add-ons make more sense for you and how you flight sim. And I guess that's what I'm getting at with the Sydney add-on, right? It's more of an all-encompassing area. Like the cityscapes are, they're not just a single point-to-point airport. So the base scenery in the sim looks pretty good. If you're flying airliners from airport to airport, you don't really need a lot of enhancement in the in-between. Maybe like power line, stuff like that. Like there is a couple different power line add-ons out there, and I'm gonna do another video on those in the future, kind of talking about the differences between those two products and this exact same point of topic about what add-on works for you. So maybe the Cityscape isn't the right add-on for you if you're more into flying tube liners and doing the air transport pilot routine from airport to airport. But if you are more into general aviation, you like flying helicopters, or you like flying smaller GA, general aviation aircraft like Cessnas or Pipers, or like a Super Cub flying around at low level, then this scenery add-on is more your speed. Now, with all that said and out of the way, I did receive this copy from OrbX to review. However, I think it is totally worth the $14 US that they're asking for the area and the immersion that it brings. I think it's a good product. As you're starting to get out further from the center of the city, you can see that not everything is quite modeled. We're here at Sydney Olympic Park, in the Kudos Bank Arena. It's still flat, but the other stuff is modeled. And what's really cool is the brick pit ring is still there. I'd like to see in sceneries like this, like they had a really good opportunity to go in and correct, since they did go in and put new satellite imagery in. They could have gone in and corrected the things like the brick pit ring. It looks really good, and it would have been a really great little tour flight excerpt had they corrected and removed the ring from the satellite imagery, and that would have just brought it like one step further into the immersion and realism. And those are kind of the next step things that you would want to see in scenery. And now, for $14 scenery that encompasses this much of an area, I'm still going to give it really good reviews, even though they didn't do something like that. But those are kind of like the next step things that I would like to see scenery developers do. And that's where they could start asking for a better command on price. You know, would it be worth a little bit more, make it maybe a $20 scenery if they had those little finishing touches? I think so. But I don't know if flight simmers as a whole would agree with that, but I'd like to see little things like that done. Because in this flyby shot right here, had I not pointed it out, maybe you wouldn't have noticed it, and this would have looked phenomenal had they just cleaned it up a tiny bit. And I know that seems nitpicky about little details like that, and it is really hard because there is so much that needs to be corrected, but there's so much that's good. And where do you start and where do you stop when you're doing these kind of packages? So, completely understandable, but I would like to see like anything, if it's listed as a point of interest, if it's drawing your attention, hopefully that the developers start to work on this and they would put a little more effort and attention into those spots that they're pulling people towards. Man, and I know sometimes these simple panning shots are just little excerpts, but it's times like this when you look at the sim and it just looks so real and you see how far we've come. I would really like to see the parking lots in the base sim improved with the AI technology. That would be the next thing. So that's nothing for the add-on developers because it's just too much, too big of a task to do all the parking lots in the sim. But hopefully that's one of the areas that the AI gets improved and worked on, because that does really break the immersion. But I say that as I'm coming in this hospital here. This is an additional building. You can tell that it has been upgraded from the regular autogen. It looks really good. And I can see that they spent a little bit of time in this area, but it was a little disappointing because there's a building on the helipad. So it's, again, you're like that 95%, oh my gosh, this looks so good. And then there's just like these what the hell moments where it just takes it away. But those are few and far between. But it is kind of frustrating. And coming into this pad, there was a secondary pad, so I was able to use it. But you know, it is kind of frustrating when everything looks so good, and then you get there, and then autogen plops a building in the middle of the helipad. So looks great, but it's frustrating at the same time. But those little areas and those little problems are very few and far between with the scenery. You really have to search to find problems, and that's what I like when I get into a scenery like this. If it's just generally enjoyable and I'm feeling immersed and I feel like I'm there. Like I said, I've never been to Sydney, but I really got a sense of that this is what the city looks and feels like when you're flying around. So for that, I think the add-on did a great job. It took me there, and that's the goal, and I think they achieved it. Thanks for watching. Be safe, be kind, and I'll see you in the next video.